Coming to you live from the Sound System Studios, Dallas, Texas.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
I don't care if I never get.
Holy cow!
Baby water. Baby water.
Well, how are you? It's Josh Smith. It's on deck. Another episode. I want to welcome you, and we've got to get straight to it. It's the Final Four, baby. The Sweet 16 Elite 8 last weekend. We'll get into it, but today it's the Final Four, Kentucky versus Wisconsin, a rematch of last year's Final Four game. Also, Duke versus Michigan State. Can't count out Izzo, can you? Got to get down to the Sweet 16 in just a moment. Like I said, the Elite 8. Also, coaches on the move. How about someone else on the move? Tiger Woods. I think he might be playing golf sometime soon. And an ESPN list we certainly got to get into. Just don't get the top 20 list, though. They've done the last 20 years, the top 20 athletes to cover their ESPN.com. And they finally changed up. Wow, finally have changed up the design of their website. Also, a few stories over the week to go around. Great stories to get to. Literally, it's a roundabout of stories there. First, back to the Sweet 16 last weekend. Elite 8 as well. How about this? Just want to let you know, I got 3 of the 4 teams in the Final Four correctamundo. Yes, I did the fantasy brackets if you did listen to some of the previous shows, but then the ones that counted, and of course even, you do a couple of just goofy ones, but for the most part, even in those other leagues, I stayed with the same teams. So and especially my main one, that's all I care about, which is right here in front of me. 3 of the 4 teams, I had Kentucky versus Wisconsin. I had Duke versus Virginia. Well, it's Duke versus Michigan State, so that's not bad, 3 out of 4. And guess what? How about I had 3 of the 4 region finals perfect. I had Wisconsin versus Arizona. I had Kentucky versus Notre Dame. I did not have Louisville versus Michigan State. I had Villanova versus Virginia, which I'm sure quite a few did as well. And the other perfect, the third of the 4th. Duke versus Gonzaga. And now back to those games. I thought Kentucky was going to, as you think time and time again, of course, they're going to wear down, but you just figure they have 10 players that weave in, weave out. They're going to wear down Notre Dame. Well, it didn't happen. Notre Dame stayed right with them. And I think it was I'm pretty sure it was Notre Dame. Pretty sure. Love that guy on Saturday Night Live. I always forget his name, that Bobby Moynihan. Bow down to you. Do a good job there. But Notre Dame, I think they had 3 of the. I think it was when they were playing Notre Dame. I saw the stat. They had 3 players or 2. Point being, they had 2 or 3 players that averaged more minutes than anyone in college basketball. They had 2. My point being, they had 2 or 3 guys in the top 10 list of average minutes per game. So not only have they averaged all these minutes and they're just wearing down. Now they're all the way this far into the season playing Kentucky, who's got 2 waves coming at you. They stayed right with it. I thought it was over. Kentucky gets out of it. They get a win. I went, of course, being down south here, we want that SEC to win. We're going to root for the SEC. So I was rooting for Kentucky regardless. But I wanted my perfect bracket. I wanted my perfect region to stay perfect, so I could at least have one perfect region, which has happened the last 3 years now, which is really crazy. Anyway, it happened. Good Kentucky. We'll talk about the Wisconsin matchup, which could give them fits down low. Now to Wisconsin. Was a close game back and forth. Wisconsin prevailed in the end. They had 85-78. I really thought Arizona might pull it off there for a while, but Wisconsin, I hate to say these white boys, and of course that's what the coach gets ridiculed for, recruiting big white guys after big white guys, but whatever he recruits system. I read an article on ESPN. Great job, but that's it. I mean, he wants some guys that are going to fit his system. 2 years ago, Comiskey wasn't even playing. He was a bench player. Didn't even know how he was going to eventually fit in when he was a sophomore. Now he's the Beast, Player of the Year. Won the award, so let's see if that ups the ante and see if they can't go on to win against Kentucky. Because they're going to give them matchup problems that no one's giving them all year. They're going to size up probably the best with them, and they're going to try to slow it down. And if they can slow it down, that's what teams have to do. Although you hear coach after coach after coach, the only way you're going to beat them is if you try to play their game and beat them and make them run. you have to get them on the attack. I saw Anthony Grant. I know Alabama released them, but they were showing multiple times. They're showing LSU and how LSU played really well against them earlier in the year. And every time they got the ball, even if it was a score, they were right down the court, pushing against them, having them backpedal, and they were showing a play where they missed a shot, and Cauley-Stein wasn't even in the play. So now you don't even have, the fifth guy's not even in the picture, and you only have three. Well, it was like almost four. The fourth guy was catching up, but you get my point. It's pushing the ball. But a lot of teams want to slow it down and say, hey, you're going to play our ball, and I think that's what Wisconsin's going to do. And they're going to slow it down, make them play Wisconsin ball, see if they can't bang them up enough and get maybe some of their key starters in foul trouble. And that's the way you beat them. I mean, you got to get lucky. You got to get a bounce here and there. You got to get some people in foul trouble. And just like really, when you see that in any, almost it's like a fight in boxing. If you cut open an eye, players injured on the football field, or if they got foul trouble in basketball, or of course they're injured regardless, you attack that. You attack that player, foul him out, and then if he's not going to foul you, he's just going to give you buckets. So we'll see how that matchup. I think it's like I said. I think they're going to give them fits, but Kentucky in the end. After all that, Kentucky, like it's funny. It's like watching First Take. And then in the end, they'll say, okay, but Kentucky prevails. And I think they do. Somewhere along the lines. It will be lower scoring. It'll be like that Kentucky-Notre Dame game. I think they're going to hold them below 70, like Notre Dame did. Barely, though. But I think it'll be somewhere along those lines. Maybe 67 to 65. But it'll be a low-scoring game. If it gets into overtime, it'll be like last year's game where it does get into the 70s. And it could be a 70-70 game without overtime, but I can't see it happening. Michigan State. You got to give it up to Izzo once more. And I've mentioned this time and time again over the past week down here. You got to give the guy credit when every time, not every year, but every 3 to 4, maybe 5 years that they do this. They're ranked early in the season. You give up on them. They lose pretty much their ranking at the end of the year. They're ended up, 7, 8 seeds, somewhere around in that. Maybe 5 seeds some years. And that's when they're going to scare you. That's when Michigan State's really going to sneak up and scare you. Yeah, they'll get you when they're really loaded in those 1 and 2, if they've ever, and a couple of times they were. I don't know if they were a 1 seed. I know they were at least a 2 seed when they won the championship back in 2000 with Mateen Cleaves and that crew. But you get my point. They'll do this, though. And that's the thing. It's the coaching. They have the players. They always have the players. It's just depending upon how hungry they are. Sometimes they're too young. Hunger doesn't matter. You see that in the tournament. You see young teams that are hungry, but it doesn't matter. The older teams, or maybe sometimes, regardless, the better teams win. Wisconsin a lot of the times. The Dukes, your Gonzagas, Kentucky's. You see the better teams. Notre Dame's to get to the point where they were. In this case, Michigan State. But they're going up against this year just a loaded heavy, almost a Kentucky, a previous years really, when Kentucky didn't have their 5 in and 5 out like they have this year. And really kind of built up after last year because the players stayed. The players didn't have to stay. Harrison guys could have left. Cauley-Stein could have left. They like the previous years with the Wall guys and DeMarcus Cousins, those type crews where they just come 1 year and they're gone. Well, they didn't do that this time around. They stayed. They knew they could get right here again this year, right where they were last year, because they are that good, and they did. Now back to Duke. Duke reminds me of those teams of Kentucky past where they got a loaded front 5, and they would be the team talked about if Kentucky didn't have all their players coming back. They would have lost those players, and Duke were going to be the ones getting in that huge class of last year because they got those players, the Jalil Okafors, etc. Forgot the number 12. I forgot number 12's name. It was number 12. Number 12 has come out of nowhere. I forgot his name. I don't want to make up a name, but it's number 12. I know he's number 12. Come alive in the tournament. They have those players. I think they're going to be a little too much for Michigan State. Michigan State's had a great run. Duke's going to prevail. Size down low. Okafor's a beast. I can't wait to see that matchup, whether it's against Comiskey or whether against Cauley-Stein and the rest of the crew against Kentucky. That's what everyone love to see. Big Blue against Big Blue, the two most dominant teams of the past 20, 30 years of college basketball, bar none. UNC right below them, which is another blue, but they're probably right below them with a few other teams. But Kentucky and Duke have held their own, regardless, bar none. And I'd love to see that matchup. Everyone has been waiting to see Kentucky-Duke loaded teams, and I think this is going to be the season. I think we see it. That's what I have in every bracket I did. I didn't even have an upset in any of them. I think every one I did, I had Kentucky versus Duke. Kentucky wins. I think it's going to be that game going to be close. Big bodies down low. Okafor versus Cauley Stein versus the rest of the crew. It's going to be a great matchup, and I could see even Duke winning. But I don't think anything's going to get in the way now after another week off to rest the players. I don't even know how much practice they really put in. But Kentucky with the Harrison twins, Cauley Stein. I'm not going to go through the rest of the guys' names. I mean, they have even the guy that got hurt earlier this year. I always forget his dang name now. They got Towns down low. Ton of guys. I sip to refresh my throat. It's 77-70 is what I have it. I think it's going to be an up-paced game. It could be even in the 80s. That's what we want to see. I could easily see it. I wish it would. You know the Razorbacks that looked us up a few years ago when I had to look up some stats of how low the Razorbacks had gotten right before Anderson got there, right around when he got there. Back in the 90s when it was 40 minutes of hell, they averaged 100 points per game a couple of times, right at 100, a couple times over 100, and point being right at 100 around 3-4 times. 99, 96, somewhere right around there. You get my point. They averaged over 90. It was around 5 times. 5 times you averaged 90 points a game. And that was back in 1990. So you get my point how things have slowly really kind of changed over the time in basketball. I hope, though, it's up there. I hope it's in the 80s, but I hope for everything it's in the 80s. And I think for the most part, long as they don't come out cold, and they're not, I don't think they're going to be shy away from the bright lights. There's no way they're going to be a deer in headlights. Like I said, Kentucky, second year coming. We've been waiting for this 2 years in a row now. Duke, same thing. They got ousted last year in the first round. They couldn't believe it as a 3 seed. They knew coming back this year, getting Okafor and the rest of the crew, that was not going to happen. Especially, I'm sorry, but Michigan State just doesn't have the talent that Duke has, and especially compared to what Wisconsin has, as in Kentucky has a little bit more of a challenge than Duke has. I think but both of them, Duke and Kentucky, totally determined. And like I said, it'll be a great game. I just don't think anything's going to stop Kentucky this year. Got to get on the next subject. I could roll on that forever. Get on the coaches, though. I guess you saw the kind of almost a swap. And of course, it would have really been funny if it would have been a swap. But Rick Barnes at first goes from one burnt can't even say this, one burnt orange to another burnt orange, pretty much. I mean, he won't even have to change ties. He'll just keep his whole collection. I'm sure some of his fans, though, may even point it out, because you know how nations are, those fan nations, Tennessee Nation, Vol Nation, whatever they call themselves, with that Rocky Top, will say, hey, you better get rid of, burn all those ties. We'll know. We'll call you out if we see that those are those ties. We'll notice. We'll look up pictures. We'll look. We'll see if that even gets close to matching. Although, really, will they care? Will they look that hard to see? I'm sure some will. Not most, but some might. My point, I don't think you'll have to change ties. It's that close. But goes to Tennessee. Made 16, in 17 years at Texas, made the NCAA tournament 16 times. 16 to 17 isn't bad. Had like a 408 and 100 and something record, 408 wins and 100 and something losses. Slow. They just, a lot of the time, a lot of the stuff I read, especially with fans, is like, what kind of coach, their idea of basketball is to throw the ball around or to pass the ball around outside the three-point line and then jack up a shot with 5 seconds left, or decided there's something along those lines. And you watch a lot of their stuff, and it's slow. They don't pass. They weren't really getting it down low. They weren't getting big guys as of late. They hadn't really got anybody since Durant. They had a few good guys, and of course they have guys going to the draft, but nothing of premier talent. They have the necessary keys, especially in Texas, to get a lot of talent. They just weren't really getting it. They were getting players here and there, but he wasn't putting it together. But Tennessee gets a perfect fit for what they need and what exactly. And another great coach now in the SEC. I mean, you talk about exactly what Tennessee wanted to fall right into their lap, and they did. They'll say, oh, whoa, hey, exactly, like color-wise even. Hey, that's perfect for us. Well, Shaka Smart then, finally, after last few years, probably ever since 2011, as far back as when they made the Final Four, when he was at, remember when they called it Virginia Commonwealth? Remember when you see that on your NCAA bracket and it was called Virginia Commonwealth? It was hardly known as VCU back then. The cooler way to say names of schools now. And now that it's what he got it to. I mean, he went from, hey, that's Virginia Commonwealth to that's VCU. So he now left there finally because Texas has tons of money. They have a ton of money down here, guys. Threw a ton of money his way. Said, hey, we know you can lead us to the next level. We like your style of play. We want that. He couldn't resist. Finally left VCU after being there from. He got there in 2009. Was 163-56. Pretty great record with 5 NCAA appearances and 1 Final Four. Pretty good. Up pace, up tempo, kind of like of course I mentioned a lot the Razorbacks. There are a lot of teams still push at Kentucky. Duke kind of like Duke likes to push. A lot of teams, North Carolina likes to push it. They're also like I think they were tops in the nation or close to in a couple different categories, and it's this one especially. And possession, excuse me, their possessions they press a lot, press more than I think the Razorbacks. So that means you have to score to press. A lot of teams and they don't. You have to. I mean, no team hardly ever presses when you don't score. You don't miss a shot and then press. You always press when you score. So that means you're scoring quite a bit. Exactly what Texas was looking for. Change of pace. They went from turtle to the hare. Speaking of that, the Jordan Hare ones dropped this weekend. If you got those, I did not. Shoehead, gosh, I love some Jordans. But anyway, all sides are happy, it looks like. Looked at even Texas getting Shaka Smart, all the recruits, everyone, all the team that was called, the members that were coming back, the players coming back next year, everyone loves it. Loves, a lot of the guys making, hashtag on their Twitter handles, making a smart decision or a smart move, So, hey, all sides are happy, so that's good. And how about this? Next on deck, Tiger Woods, yes, he's finally made the decision to return. He's going to make his 2-month leave, his absence from the PGA Tour. A lot of people, like I said, even thought maybe supposedly he was suspended. Anyway, finally he's coming back. Because, you should have seen him. Did you see his chipping? Did you see that horrendous chipping? He literally could have tagged me in, and I could have done better on those 5 chips that I remember seeing that were just like, whoa, wow. Man, the old Tiger, I wish there was the old Tiger that could just stand beside you and literally, I don't know what he'd do. I don't know if one of them, probably in different stages. One of them would be laughing. One of them would probably literally hit him. Anyway, finally he's coming back. And it's crazy. About a month ago, right about now, a story came out. He was 10% at the beginning of March. Right around now, he's 10%. A month ago. Then the story came out. They were asking Nota Begay, his best friend, one of his best friends, Nota Begay III, went to school with him at Stanford. Hey, you've been hanging out with Tiger. He had an interview, I forgot exactly with whom, and you've been hanging out with Tiger, blah, 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 blah. What's the status? Well, now he's up to 50% mid-March. That was a couple weeks ago, so that's 50%. So he went from 10% to 50%. And, of course, everyone, and Hank Haney and everyone, the people that could come out and make a name for themselves that would say something, hey, he's playing. I said it. I know I'm not anybody, but hey, I said it. He was playing in the Masters. Come on. He knows it better than pretty much any course. Going to play in, I think it was his 14th or 15th finally Masters. So we'll see how he does. He shot 2 over in his practice round the other day. I can only speculate right now what he'd shoot. I'm not going, he's going to come out and he's going to shoot 68, he's going to shoot 70, he's going to be 6 under after. No, I have no idea. To make the cut would be great, and that's what most people are obviously saying. Hey, you make the cut, you get into the weekend, you try to just do something from there. Be something on Saturday. But don't put, and that's the thing as of late, I hate that. He puts too much pressure on himself, and that's the thing of Tiger. The first, and most athletes, you have to go through some hard times, and then you win some championships. You hardly come out winning ring after ring after ring, or cup after cup after cup, or championship after championship, and then kind of hit a low. That's what he did. Of course, I guess in most careers and his longevity would at that time because they would be too old. Though in golf, you're really still kind of in your prime at around 32, 3, 4, 5, 6 when he was all of a sudden hitting this low. And, of course, due to injury. Then all of a sudden, one was a knee injury. Then when he came back in 2009, was fine after the knee injury. Almost won then, of course, again the 2009 PGA Championship. Lost late going away. I forgot the Korean. I forgot what his name is. But anyhow. Then he has the incident, like everyone. Elway has the drive. Jordan has a shot, and poor freaking. Well, he does have plenty of shots, but nothing that anyone would call that. I guess he has the chip, but at the Masters. But He has the incident. Poor Tiger has the incident. And ever since then, hasn't been able to recover. And like I said, and no one has hardly mentioned that. I guess maybe they don't want to go there because it is maybe touchy for him. But he doesn't have his father. Every time he ever had anything to challenge him in the past, because he was always a front runner, he could hardly ever come from behind, which he did a few times. He did. Never in a major. But he could come from behind, scare people, especially in his prime. He would scare people. Once he got hot, that's what would happen. He would scare people. Well, he lost that, and then he lost his father, and then he lost his family, really, in a way. And I think since then, he's only had that uphill battle, and he never had to face that, my point being, in the beginning of his career. A lot of people had to face that. Say Jordan, even. Just for instance, he didn't have it. The Pistons were killing him. Then he got finally through them, got to the Lakers and beat them. Next thing he wins 3 in a row. Then his father has the unfortunate death. He just kind of has lost the lust to play so hard and wants to go do baseball. Well, that doesn't mean after 10 years in the NBA, them playing baseball doesn't mean he's going to come back and be able to win 3 straight more and be as dominant as he was, but yet he was. He faced adversity, won, faced adversity again, then won again. There have been other athletes to do this, where Tiger, unfortunately, as much as I love him, it's Elway and MJ, 1A and 1A. Then at 2 or 3, however you want to see it, it was Tiger for me. I loved him. Obviously, who didn't? That dominance. Who wouldn't love just loving that pure dominance of winning 4 straight majors, the Tiger Slam? Unfortunately, not 4 in a calendar year, but 4 straight. Still, nonetheless, dominance. He hasn't had to face the adversity ever. Now that he has, it's been hard for him, and he's regained it. He looked good after, well, at least the injuries he always has, but after this in 2000, the incident, since then, with different swing changes, this, that, and the other, he hasn't been able to kind of climb that hill back up. He did to number 1, I will say that, yes, in 2013. I thought, finally, this is it. Then more injuries. And I think, like a lot of people said, the swing was going to come back. This tremendous swing takes a toll on his body, and it's going to be... And look, I can say the same. I swung hard as a kid. I played football. Next thing you know, I have a herniated disc now, and I can't swing like I used to. I just can't. He can't play like he used to. His knees, his back. I can only imagine walking that many miles. It is miles you walk on a golf course. As a kid, you're carrying your bag up to a certain age. Then you finally have a caddy, but you're still walking. Then you get my point. Then you're still playing and hitting so many balls. That is, if you imagine how many swings he's taken in his life, how many steps even just on a golf course he's taken in his life. Millions, people. Millions. That's crazy. That's a lot for a human body. And especially for that kind of swing, the way he would aggress at the ball. I love him to death. I wish him the best. I just wish that he would, and hopefully he has. I said his body needs to, his body first needs to get 100% back to 100%, and then his mind, or close to, whether how long it took. And maybe this could just be a test. If he doesn't play that great, take another month off if you need to. There isn't another major till June. I know you've got maybe a tournament or 2 you'd like to enter until then. Maybe you can. But take time off. You need to get your head straight too. And then go, okay, I'm going to go out and then get your confidence back. Watch your old film. Whatever it takes. Go out with your friends. Be happy. I don't know what it takes, what it used to take for you to get in that mindset. But guess what? That's the mindset you need to find again. That's what's going to get it. My point being, that's what it's going to take for you to get back to where you once were. It's not like you're going to hear this. Not at all. No one's probably going to hear this. Not compared to when I'm on ESPN or any of the network stations, CBS. I don't care if it's FXX. They have a sports gig here in a little bit. It's Comedy Central. I'm pretty funny. Come on. I have to get to the next portion of this whole entire podcast. Another sip. Another on deck. Oh my gosh, that juice is amazing. Got to get some. I forgot what punch that is I got. I'll have to recommend it next time. On deck, you got it. ESPN, ESPN.com now is 20 years old. They have finally, of course, redesigned their website, which I just thought was amazing. I get on there yesterday, I think it was. I'm like, oh, wow, what? Finally? Maybe it was 20 years to the day. I don't know. But they're also doing their top 20 athletes over the past 20 years. Michael Jordan, number 1. Okay, I guess. I love him to death. Like I said, you just heard me. But 20 years. Okay, so since 1995-6. Only won 3 rings since then. Yeah, he was been by far the most. No one's ever going to be Michael Jordan. No, my point being, 20 years from any shoe release, 30 years even for some of them, he sells out the shoe. He, last year, it was like, I forgot what the numbers were, but it was something like this. Michael Jordan shoe sales alone, $300 million. The next closest was like LeBron at $30 million. It was just something like that. It was ridiculous. And, of course, his overall sales, shorts, you get my point, pants, jackets. I have a lot of this stuff. Basketballs. I mean, yes, a portion of it goes to Nike. He owns the Bobcats, too. Please. Maybe that's where all that came in, of course, because he's Michael Jordan. Whatever. Fine. Just put him at 1. I mean, that's what they should have just done. They should have said, hey, he's excluded. He's pretty much the almighty. He's the GOAT, as I always called him, the greatest. He's the GOAT. You can't call him a god, but he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. Even though it's a GOAT, it sounds funny, but greatest of all time. Anyway, to the main reason I'm even bringing this up. Guess who's number 2? Oh, you'd think Tiger Woods, right? You'd think Tiger Woods maybe was number 1 when you think last 20 years. Maybe a lot of Michael Phelps because he was dominant, or Serena Williams, or Federer, or Tom Brady. Or Kobe Bryant when you think basketball, right? Maybe LeBron James number 2. LeBron James number 2 with Tiger at 3. Tiger at 3. Let me run this down. Like I said, last 20 years. So 96, right now, or I guess 95. Well, obviously. I just don't understand this. I almost just lost my mind. Anyway, LeBron's awesome. Yeah, he's great. He's not even the same galaxy, let alone universe as Tiger Woods, y'all. He's won 14 majors and 97 overall tournaments since 1996 himself. That's an average of 7 per year to now. Imagine what it was in 2008. It was like 10, almost an average of I forgot what it was per year. 8 or 9, somewhere around there per year. It's obviously dropped off tremendously. Luckily, 2013, he won like 5 or 6. Anyway, LeBron James has only won 2 NBA titles, and he has 4 MVPs. Great. He has 4 in, 10 years. That's okay. That's pretty good, actually. Guess what? Tiger has won the equivalent of the golf MVP award 11 times. 11 MVP awards. 14 majors, so that's 14 rings. 14 rings. 4 of them in a row. Did you hear me say that earlier? 4 in a row he had at one point in time. So at one point he had every ring you can hold, and he held them all on all 4 fingers. If you could do that, you get my point. And 97 overall tournaments. Not even close. And thank gosh, Skip Bayless and it was Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. joined ESPN First Take, or ESPN 2's First Take, with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith the other day. All of them in agreeance, I guess you should say, or I should say, that yes, that is the truth. Tiger Woods not even close. And if you're going to put a basketball player up there, it should be Kobe Bryant. He's won 5 rings. Okay, albeit 3 with Shaq, but still he won 2 more after that in later years. I know he had Phil Jackson. I don't care. LeBron James left to go to some super team and then left to make another super team. Kobe never did that. Pretty much kicked Shaq out. He did. He said, "Get out of this is my team. I was drafted by the team. I'm staying here till I'm done. I die." Literally. I mean, look at him. Playing next year again. About to die. Anyway, I mean, my gosh. Kobe Bryant, by far. And I agree the most. Kobe Bryant, if there was ever a second coming of Jordan, and luckily it was crazy, it was right afterward. It was as close as it's ever going to get. It was Kobe. Michael's a 10. Kobe's a 9. And LeBron's not a Michael. Quit getting over that. And what's funny, Roy Jones brought it up. Junior, as much as he's been hitting the head, and everyone agreed too. Because Skip always says that. Or maybe it is Stephen A. I forgot which one. But he's Magic Johnson. He's the newest Magic Johnson, just a better scorer, a better shooter. He can distribute. Magic, by far, well, not by far, but definitely a better passer. But LeBron's a little bigger, a little more aggressive. He can take it to the hole harder. You get what I'm saying? He's just a newer, bigger version. And listen, it's the new NBA. We don't. I mean, yeah, he grew up wanting to pass him, but they don't pass like they used to. They don't pass like they. There were so many. Well, yeah, there are some passes, but you get my point. There are so many great passers in the past. That's what they grew to do. They didn't want to score. Stockton wanted to score. Excuse my dog. Hey, hush! That's my dog's there. Would you hush? No, that's Einstein. They're Brody, Neville. That's my Chihuahuas, and we got Bella, my big Great Dane. She's just hanging out. She's a big girl. Anyway, what? Seriously? I don't care. I'm just moving on from it, but come on. There's not even close. Tiger Woods over LeBron James any day of the week. Even most likely some of these guys. Federer maybe over LeBron for what all he's won. I forgot how many. Most ever by a man, like almost 20. He's got 20 rings. Serena Williams, same with her. She's moving up on the most ever by a female. I think she's second most ever. You got Brady, Manning. Okay, here's the list in overall. If you hadn't seen it, you can easily go look it up. But it goes Jordan, James, Woods, Brady, Federer, Serena Williams, Manning. Then there's Bryant, Phelps. He's had a great run. Here's one that's just totally overrated, and I'm sure they got into it. I didn't see it all. Jeter that high. What has he done statistically to make him as great? I know he's won some rings. He's got a lot of few hits. 3,000. A lot of people have 3,000 hits. Can just be a next new 1,000-yard rushing season in the NFL. If you get what I'm saying. I mean, 3,000 hits. There's going to be a lot of them coming up soon. It seems like. And I know that's the new steroid era, I guess. But okay. Anyway, Jeter, then Shaq, then Lionel Messi, Lance Armstrong, which they debated that, and he should be on it. But I always give him a pass, guys. I'm just sorry. I know he lied, somewhat cheated in a cheating era as well in another sport. But imagine having testicular cancer and like lung cancer and whatever. He had like 3 cancers at once. Sorry, just give the guy a somewhat of a pass on that, man. Just imagine having all those. I don't know what to degree and extent and the pain he went through. I know it was somewhat, obviously. Anyway. Excuse me again there. Tim Duncan, Brett Favre, Usain Bolt. It's funny how they have to put someone from each category. Here's the track and field guy on here. Mayweather, Mia Hamm, she made the list. Then Barry Bonds. They talked about cheating, but you can bring up big forehead Barry Bonds. Then Sidney Crosby, which I mentioned the whole aforementioned. Got to have someone from every sport. He's the hockey guy. So there's your list, top 20 over the last 20 years. So many names you could probably put in there and then take out. Not going to go through that list. This is just, that's what I need a show for. Someone needs to give me a show. I could talk about this one day and have people call in, whatever the local sport may be, a local team. I could come up with so many different lists and things for people to be calling in. So I love caller-driven shows. Or I could just talk for 4 hours, whatever you want. This got to get off the topic because I could keep talking about, but come on. LeBron James over Tiger Woods? What have you? Nope. What you been smoking? What you talking about? Oh, Willis. Next on deck. I'm sure you heard of it. Jonathan Taylor, defensive tackle, Alabama, 330-pound run-stopping machine. Well, yeah. Anyway, he doesn't play for them anymore. How about this story though? They won't be welcoming him back, even though. Listen to the story. So Jonathan Taylor was dismissed from not only Georgia originally, one SEC powerhouse, to another one, Alabama. The football program, even after his accuser, the woman, she recanted her story, which led to his arrest on a domestic violence charge. Well, then subsequently, she was arrested for telling a lie. Yes, she originally told police Saturday before last that he had become physical with her and physical with officers observing, he'd become physical, it says, to the officers. I'm reading the report. Observing minor injuries to her neck that the woman came from this altercation. So supposedly there'd been an altercation with Jonathan Taylor and his woman, name not released. She made this whole thing up. He tried to go tell Alabama, hey, I didn't do this. They weren't believing him. He's like, no, I didn't do this. I promise. Oh, man. Anyway, girl got him kicked off. Point being, they're not going to welcome him back, even though there's, she's recanted it. Now she's going to jail for lying about it. They see this as obvious trouble because while he was at Georgia, he was arrested twice. Yeah, the cases for both are still pending. First, he was arrested for theft by deception, legal term, or a check cashing scheme, as they want to call it. After trying to cash a couple of grant checks, and multiple times, getting denied multiple times. Then again last July for allegedly punching and choking another girl. He was charged with a felony of aggravated assault, family violence, and dismissed by the Bulldogs the next day after the whole punching and choking incident. So, like I said, those cases still pending. Theft by deception or the check cashing scheme and the whole aggravated assault, or I don't know why they're calling it family violence. Dismissed from Georgia. Crazy to think Alabama picks him up. He must be a stud. I haven't looked up too much of his tape, but he must just be a stud for Alabama to go take a chance on him. Although those are pending and looking to maybe be dropped, but I don't know about now. After this now this has come out, they'll maybe look into a little bit more. Even though, yes, those have been dropped, or I should say this one in Alabama has been dropped about having an altercation with this other lady. They're just going, that's the reason Bama dropped him. They're like, hey, we see your trouble. We don't need anything to do with you. We're going to win without you. You're not an all-star running back. You're not an all-star quarterback or wide receiver. If you were one of those three positions, you would be kept on the team. You would be. You would maybe be suspended. You get my point. Something would be done, then brought back on the team, like enough time for fall practice. Like they'd, you would be, I guess if you're suspended, then you're accepted back, or they release your suspension and you get what I'm saying, and they rejoin the team in time for practice in August. Well, he's none of those before. And the fact that he's not a quarterback, running back, or wide receiver, and he's had trouble prior at Georgia, nonetheless, they said bye. They said, there's the door. Go have fun. We'll see you at South Alabama. We'll try to play in 2 years. On deck, Jake, did you see this? And this is what we got on deck. Stories. These are our stories of the week. I've been meaning to get to these. All my stories of the week. Jonathan Taylor. That would be story numero uno. How about next, though? Jay Cutler. He might be one of the most unpopular players in Chicago now. It may not be, maybe. I don't know. But his stock has definitely hit a new low. Boo! Whoop. Yep, down to the bottom. At a charity auction to raise money for, how about this, Anti-Cruelty Society held at Bloomingdale store in Chicago. A football autographed by Jay Cutler didn't receive a single bid. Not one. Uno. Not uno. No. It was $100. The starting bid was, I almost would pay $100. You'd think, hey, that's $100 for an autographed Jay Cutler football. Sure. Played for the Broncos. All right. Whew. Didn't get a bid. Everyone passed it up. I forgot to write down all what did get bids on. Defensive linemen, offensive, of course, a couple, Alshon Jeffrey. Anyway, but just people that you were like, you wouldn't think. Well, my point being, you would think, or you wouldn't, or whatever you want to call it, you would think if they're going to get a bid, their stuff's going to get sold. Jay Cutler's is. Or vice versa, like I said, if they're not going to get any, if Jay Cutler's not going to get any bids, or his stuff's not going to get sold, surely his won't, right? Well, no. No. So finally, an anonymous, and it literally was listed as an anonymous bidder, came through and bought the football. Who do you think the odds-on favorite is? Jay Cutler? And how about this little pansy? Can I say pansy? I guess I can because it's a podcast. I wouldn't say that if I was on air here at the radio station, but I can say that here, right? Pansy, this little baby. I just don't want to start cussing because if people do this and this, I don't think I cuss all the time. Well, this is a podcast, so I can, right? I can say what I want. I don't want to bring out any certain words, 5-letter words. But, man, wow, just Carmelo Anthony. Of course, he's out with the season-ending knee injury. Of course, he had the surgery. But now he is scared that a hustling, diving, crashing player will dive into the bench where Anthony might be sitting, and he might get hurt. He might get hurt. He might get hurt even more. He can't move. He says, oh, no, here they come. I can't move in time. I'm hurt. They're going to crash into me. Whoa. I don't know, a lot of sudden crazy things can happen, but still. He's that scared. He won't sit on the sideline. That's the story. Carmelo Anthony is that big of a little pansy that he won't sit on the sideline. But yeah, let me tell you this one. Okay, oh, you Carmelo fans or haters that might be hating on me right now. How about he played through, though. He played through this injury, do you remember, just so he could participate in the All-Star game at Madison Square Garden, his home court. But yet he can't even sit on the Knicks bench now? Please Please, you're the paper toss. Get it out of my face. Come on. Another story. I hate to bring up entertainment type news, but I saw this the other night. It was Access Hollywood, one of those shows, on your network television in the afternoon. Well, it's Charlotte McKinney. She was on Dancing with the Stars, and I got to bring this up because I'm just tired of this whole new age bullying thing. It just blows my mind, the world we live in now, and everyone just everyone needs something. It's always me, or I need a trophy, or what about me? This is how I am. Don't forget about me. Point being, she's an Instagram model, a Carl's Jr. ad that she's done recently. I've just got a lot of publicity, positive and negative, obviously, and positive, and you get my point. But, okay, you're a model now. You're a gorgeous woman. People would love to be you. But yet she dropped out of high school because of bullying from other girls. Here's her quote, and listen to the end part. The girls were rude. They would call me a whore, slut, fake boobs. It was brutal, pretty brutal, McKinney said. At parties, the girls would throw beer at me just because I was the prettier girl in high school. Okay, do you hear what you just said to yourself? And all the girls that just threw beer at you were going, man, I wish I could throw another beer at you this time without I opening it. I want to throw a full beer at you without opening it. Yeah, that's where she wants to go. Though they went. I mean, really, you went there? You had to throw that at the end? Because I was the prettier girl. The prettiest girl in high school, pretty much is what you're saying. Yeah, you're gorgeous. But come on. I ain't saying fake boobs anymore. I'll tell you that. You take a look over them pictures. Them things going to be... there's a couple different songs I wanted to bring up about just swinging low. Sweet Chariot. Anyway, yeah. Well, enjoy them while you got them. But anyway, she also revealed lately she had dyslexia. Then the story, of course, she's on Dancing with the Stars, and the Bruno comes out and says, well, you won't win the award, whatever award for quantum physics, something about quantum physics. Well, no, I'm sorry. I mean, I know he referenced that you're not that smart or bright, and you're a blonde maybe, but my gosh, who's going to win any award for quantum physics anytime soon? Not many people. Go look that up. Go have fun in quantum physics. Anywho, seriously? And then she throws up the whole... Oh, especially last week when the whole bullying thing. Well, of course, because the week before, and her little... If you do... I don't watch Dancing with the Stars that much, but enough to go, hey, I know that happens. Here's what they do if you never watch Dancing with the Stars. Pretty much the point is they'll bring out, oh, here's who's next, and before they actually dance, they'll go to, hey, here's what we did this week, and they'll show like a 2-minute little insert of, hey, them dancing in like a little studio and them talking and getting feelings out, or maybe it's a good week, or maybe it's a bad week, and them practicing whatever dance they're doing, the tango, and they're practicing the tango all week, and then after that little 2-minute insert of them doing that, then it'll go to them and their dance. Well, in that little insert last week, she went on to the whole, I've been bullied in high school, and really brought that out, and then she really kind of brought out that she was she had a problem and dealt with dyslexia. What does that have to do? Really? That has to do with what? You're a gorgeous model. What? Anyone would love to be you. You flaunt yourself all the time. You're a confident model, which I read too that you've quoted yourself as, but yet you've been bullied. Where is this? I just don't get it. I know. Sorry that someone may have said you're not that smart, but sorry, you should have just brought it to that. Just like, why did you say I wasn't that smart? They weren't really he wasn't. Anyway, people, get over the bullying thing. I can understand if someone is literally taking your money every day, pushing you down, and some people do take it to extremes. We've all been in elementary school. And I know in this new day and age, the world we live in, where everyone's got to have a trophy, they're going to take it to the next new extreme, and maybe, unfortunately, a kid grabs a gun and takes it to school because he's had enough of the bullying, or, because of all the ideas. That's the thing, unfortunately. I forgot exactly now what they call it. I want to say joker, but you get my point. Whenever someone does something, everyone wants a copycat, pretty much, and it sucks. It's unfortunate. It's terrible. It's just progressed and progressed and progressed. And then that's the unfortunate thing, where we shouldn't highlight these things. We blow them up so everyone sees them. And maybe, we want to do that to raise awareness for it, and let's not do this. But then some kid's going to see that, because there are a lot of people in this world now, they're going to take it the wrong way. I've seen it. I've been there. I've been with girls. Girls take things the wrong way, unfortunately, a lot of the time. You say one thing, they take it, unfortunately, kind of toward maybe another way. And you're like, no, that's not what I meant. Sorry, girls. I've just dealt with girlfriends that have done that. But guys do. I mean, everyone does things like, you get my point. I hate the unfortunate fact of the world we live in, and now bullying is this whole thing that's just blown out of proportion. Just don't get it, really. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I remember me. It happened to me a couple of times when I was in kindergarten, first grade. I mean, I'm fine still. Nothing happened. I kept progressing. And I know everyone deals with things differently, but just learn to, and that's the thing. You've just got to see the positive light in everything. Go get help if you need help. And unfortunately, this day and age, just with pills and they say, well, they did this, so I deserve that, right? Or this is what helped them, so I can. Anyway, it's definitely a new world we live in, and unfortunately, it's sometimes saddening. But hey, let's take it back a little bit. A couple more. Let's take it back though. 40 years ago, in 1 month. I should say 40 years and 1 month ago. Today, literally 40 years and 1 month ago today. Today, you get my point. I love everything. I'm just a happy person. Today is April 4th, right? Well, on March the 4th, 1973, Mike Kekik and Fritz Peterson held a press conference saying, hey, we're swapping wives. We're changing families. Just want to let everyone know. Okay, so they literally, one was at 10 a.m., one was at 4 p.m., to announce details of what would literally become known as the most scandalous, in quotation marks, scandalous trade in baseball history. Literally, they swapped families, and they called it the wife swap, but it was really the husband swap, because the wife stayed with the kids, and the wife stayed right there at home with the kids, the dogs. The husband just packed their stuff up and switched. And it was funny because literally just recently, Peterson did an interview where he came out and kind of went over the whole thing, and he started it all. It was one night he was leaving with his wife and said, hey, why don't you go, Sue was one of the girls named Suzanne, and I forgot the other wife's name, but hey, why don't you go home with Sue, or it said to his wife, Sue, hey, why don't you go home with Mike, and I'll go home with so-and-so, his wife. And so they took separate cars to go home after they went out to eat somewhere. And, well, they left that way after they had such a good time kind of riding with each other. And they started doing that a little bit more here and there more often. They'd just switch. They'd say, hey, they literally just switched for the night. They'd go out and do things. But it was originally Fritz Peterson, his idea, saying, hey, why don't you go with Mike, go ride with him, and she can ride with me. And we'll see you back at the house here in the next hour or so. And boy, did they have some fun. Literally switched, got remarried. Fritz Peterson and his wife, I forgot exactly her name, they're still married. The other two split up. It is a great story. You got to look it up. But literally all you have to type is Yankees wife swap in Google. Bam, you'll find the whole story. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal story. And to the last story of the day, the biggest man in NBA now, you're on deck. It used to be Yao Ming. Now it's Sim Bhullar. That's right. He's Indian. He's the first player of Indian descent to play in the NBA, and he's 7'5", 360. Yeah, he's big. He signed a 10-day contract with Sacramento Kings. And what's funny, the obvious reason he's playing for him is that the first majority owner of Indian descent owns the Sacramento Kings. Yep, that would be why it's so funny. You'll see, you can find highlights, you'll see it. But anyway, especially when they show stuff like on ESPN when they're talking about him, you'll see the owner on the sideline, or like all those D-League games when he was getting brought up. They'll see him on the sideline, like cheering him on, and then you'll see after he scores or something. It is so funny. But hey, then that's a great thing for the NBA. It's what the NBA wants. That's what they want to see, to expand. And now they've reached to a new country that they haven't been to. And you get my point. They probably have had players, but not to make the NBA level. Now they have. And albeit one of the biggest guys ever to play in the NBA. And he's huge. And that's the thing. You don't have to be good. Just got to stand there. I mean, Manute Bol, Sam Bradley, half these guys. George Muresan. These guys weren't good. They just stood there. They had a little game at times. They developed it a little bit. But for the most part, these guys had no skill compared to a lot of other, say, 7-footers. And those guys, yes, a little bit shorter. Literally maybe 4, 5, 6 inches shorter. But that's why they a little bit shorter. They could have a little bit more fundamental basketball, to where these guys, they just stand there. They're just a force. There's literally some block shots where he's standing there. Guys run into him. He just swats it out of the way. Just like, get that out of here. It's funny. Funny story. There's your stories of the week, though. This is On Deck. Josh Smith. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Joshua A. Smith7. That's at Joshua A. Smith7. Still don't know if I want to go by Josh Smith, Joshua Smith. It's kind of a new thing. There's so many out there now. There wasn't really anything for a while. It's kind of funny. I went to high school. There was 3 of us. There was 3 in Cabot High School where I graduated from. And what's funny, when I moved to Cabot, crazy story, 2 of us from 7th grade on. So when I moved to Cabot, I moved there in 7th grade. Met Josh Smith. I was like, hey, what's up, Josh Smith? Hey, what's up, Josh Smith? It was crazy. It was just one of those stories, phenomenal to think that you're actually going to school with another guy named Josh Smith. He did not have the same middle name. Mine is Alan. His was Christopher, I want to believe. But anyway, we get to high school. We get to seniors. Finally, didn't see this guy. Never saw him before anyway when we were in lower grades. But point being, all of a sudden in 10th grade, though, I don't know if he moved there. Never really asked him. We should have. We should have approached him and said, hey, Josh Smith. The other Josh Smith. So I said, hey, I'm Josh Smith. And then he would have looked at us like, what? This is really weird. But I should have approached him and asked, hey, when'd you get him anyway? The point being, there was a 10th grader named another Josh Smith. There were 3 Josh Smiths. I graduated in high school, and there were 3 Josh Smiths. Of course, well, I guess I just graduated with another, but my point being, when I was a senior, there were 2 others in high school. I just don't know. It's a crazy world. Joshua Smith, Josh Smith. Still trying to think about it. Maybe you can let me know. Fill me in. I'm ready for all the questions, the answers. Final Four, though, you better get ready tonight. By the time you hear this, the games will probably be done. Will I be right? Will Kentucky get past Wisconsin? I think they do. We'll get Dukies. Will the Duke Blue Devils get past Michigan State? That's a great rivalry matchup, really. Duke and Michigan State. Krzyzewski versus Izzo. And then kind of a rematch of last year's Final Four. Like I said, Kentucky versus Wisconsin. We'll see if I'm right. Talk about it next week on Deck. Don't forget to hit me up, joshsmithsports.com. Find me there. Tweet me at Joshua A. Smith 7. Find me next week here on the show. It's On Deck.